Alpha team has visual on squatters was all I heard Phil say over the radio. All I say, the fighters were headed for a ridge line 300 meters north of the compound. The fighters were headed for the ridge line 300 meters north of the compound. We were trying to cut them off while the rest of the group took down the compound. The fighters were headed for a ridge line 300 meters north of the compound. The fighters were headed for a ridge line 300 meters north of the compound. We were trying to cut them off while the rest of the troop took down the compound. As we closed on their position, I looked back to see Phil and the rest of the team close behind. It was our first mission on this deployment, and we were still getting used to the altitude. Seeing the rest of the team moving into position, I snapped back around and shouldered my rifles. I snapped back. Seeing the rest of the team moving into position, I snapped back around and shouldered my rifles. The enemy fighters were setting up a fighting position roughly 150 yards away. I could barely keep my laser steady after the 500-meter run in all of my gear, but I managed to lock on to the fighter with the RKM machine gun, squeezing off multiple rounds. I watched him fall. But then my teammates arrived and opened the fire, dropping 2 more fighters before the rest disappeared over the ridge line and out of sight before the rest disappeared. Ridge line and out of sight, leaving there dead. Remaining fighters raced down the back side of the ridge line. Back side of the ridge, we have 5 hotspots moving to the north toward several compounds. We have 5 hotspots moving to the north toward several compounds. I heard the drone pilot say in my radio. I could see the laser from the drone moving down the backside of the hill. Phil gave the team a nod, and we were off on another dead sprint to close the distance. Phil gave the team a nod, and we were off on another dead sprint to close the distance. As we crested the top of the ridge line, we slowed down, careful not to rush into a hasty ambush. I saw three bodies lying there, one with a machine gun and one with an RPG. We were lucky to take out their two biggest guns in the first seconds of the fight. The dead fighters were dressed in baggy shirts and pants and black cheetahs, high-top Puma-like sneakers worn by Taliban fighters. It was a running joke in the squadron that if you wore black cheetahs in Afghanistan, you are automatically suspect. I had never seen anyone but Taliban fighters in those sneakers. From the ridge line, we could see the surviving fighters tearing down the backside of the hill. Phil snatched the RPG lying next to one of the dead fighters and fired it at the group as they ran off. The rocket landed nearby, and the shrapnel peppered the fighters as they came. Dropping the launcher, he turned to me over the radio. We were getting calls about close air support, or CAS. An AC-130 gunship was circling above us. CAS is coming on station. CAS is coming on station. Dropping the launchers, he turned to me over the radio. We were getting calls about close air support, or CAS. An AC-130 gunship was circling above us. CAS is coming on station. Phil literally screamed at me from 2 feet away. The RPG had knocked out his hearing. I can hear you, I said. Stop screaming, Phil said. For the rest of the night, I could hear Phil before I saw him. Every word out of his mouth came in a scream. He watched from the ridge line as the AC-120 20mm cannon pounded the fighters, sending the combat assault dog, which Phil had nicknamed the hair missile, ahead. We spent the rest of the night chasing down the remaining fighters. All of them were either mortally wounded or dead. Mortally. All of them. All of them were either all of them were either mortally wounded or dead. Phil and another assaulter chased the fighter into one of the compounds, while the rest of us started to clear a field of waist-deep grass. The AC-130 was reporting more hotspots. We launched the hair missile and he locked on the scene of fighter about 50 feet to my right. I could hear the fighter start screaming as the dog attacked it. Calling the dog off, the assaulters threw hand grenades into the ditch, where the fighter waited to ambush us. The assaulters threw hand grenades into the ditch where the fighter waited to ambush us. The assaulters threw hand grenades in the ditch where the fighter waited to ambush us. Where the fight ambush the assaulters threw hand grenades into the ditch where the fighters waited to ambush us. As they moved up to clear the ditch, I started to move forward. Even under my night vision goggle, it was difficult to see. The grass was thick and hard to walk through. Behind me, I could hear intermittent gunfire as Phil and another assaulters were in a firefight with a barricaded shooter in one of the compounds. My gun was up, and I tried to use my laser to illuminate a path through the grass. I could see burned patches ahead of me where 20mm shell had hit. Every step was measured. I saw a dark shadow in my feet underneath my night vision goggle. I lifted my foot to step on it, assuming it was a log or a branch, when I heard the man gasp. I jumped back and opened fire. It scared the shit out of me. Taking a second to confirm, I didn't actually shoot myself. I got my nerves under control. I got my nerves under control. I moved up to search the body. He must have been dead before I got there. The weight of my foot on his chest forced the air out of his lung. The body was signed from the 200mm round. After a quick search, I found an AK-47 and a chest rack.